There's no need to tackle the far right, and it won't work anyway. Because you could tackle the far right, still end up with a so-called centre-left government in power, which is what we have, or at least what a lot of people think it is, that's keeping kids in poverty, supporting genocide, and putting people in prison for expressing their democratic rights. So if that's the default, we need to be offering a better alternative. And that's the key. I think one of the challenges that I've been reading a lot of the questions in the document there is that everybody is seeing is, where do I put my energies is the question. That's what it can be summed up as. Because if you feel on your own and you think, oh, if I'm going to set up an organization, I'm going to need some infrastructure and maybe a constitution and a bank account. By the time you've done that, you've spent all your free time. So how is it that we can create something where your energies are useful, where we have, in economic terms, a division of labor, and a lot of the infrastructure work is done, and people can spend their time, their limited time, especially if you're working for a living, your very limited time, actually getting out there and doing something. Now, there's lots of messages out there. If you look at all the campaigns from someone like We Own It to do with public ownership of utilities, all the trade union campaigns, all the food poverty campaigns, all of these people are saying this is outrageous. Why have we got a 2-child benefit cap? The challenge is that the mainstream media is dominated by people who have a different kind of social power available to them than we have. Social power is the ability of a group to get their demands met. And if you're a billionaire, you can maybe buy Twitter, fund a think tank, own a newspaper. That's how you get your message out. You bribe a few politicians. It's not an option for us. So we've got to build it in a way that gets people in who are going to give a little bit of their time. And if we want people to be given their time, we have to do it in such a way that it's actually enjoyable to them, because it's actually not that much fun to sit around hearing a load of other people who agree with you being angry, because you go away thinking, God, yeah, everything's crap, isn't it? What you want is something where you go away from it thinking, hey, that was really good. You know what? I'll bring my mates next time. That, I think, in a nutshell, is what we've got to get right, rather than any messaging. Over the summer in the Northeast, we had, coming out of the mayoral campaign, hundreds of people. And we set up an organisation called Majority, which does have a political party, but that's just so you can get the registers, so you can get something on the ballot paper. We've done that. It's set up. We have a social movement. Yesterday, we had 73 people in an in-person meeting where we were going through the kind of events we're going to run to bring people in. A Majority Film Club, a Majority Assembly, where people come together, have food and music, and get a chance to talk about the news. Reading groups. Part of it is the book Act Now. I co-wrote this. I don't think it's very radical. I think it's just basic common sense. It does happen to include nationalising the utilities, universal basic income, divestment from fossil fuels, everything else in it that you would form the basis of anything we were going to set up. And it's there. What else do we do? Flash mobs, public lectures, mass attendance at council meetings. There's nothing like turning up in the public gallery with a few dozen of you and putting the frighteners of everyone saying, yeah, we are coming for your seats, because turning up in numbers is what people understand. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we are doing in Newcastle. We're running people in a place called Shildon. Some of you won't know it if you're from outside the Northeast, but it is the archetype of left behind Britain. It's a small town in the depths of County Durham, had a big wagon works that closed in the Thatcher era. One of our candidates had applied to reform for a candidate, saw us at a meeting and says, actually, that makes so much more sense than what they're telling me. That's the way we're going about it. We're running candidates this May. And next year in Newcastle, where it's all out council elections, we'll be running in all 78 seats with a view to taking over the council. We take control of a major city. People start to believe, because that actually gets on the news in a way that our policies won't. They will never put our policies in the news. We know that. Might get on GBBs. And so it always comes down to what can we do now? So what we want is a way for people to come in. And if we say, here's something that you can be involved in that fits with the time you've got available. One activity where you actually get to build a bit of affinity, where you get to feel part of a movement, where you actually get to talk with people as humans, and the politics is spoken about. And then one activity which is outward facing, And it takes a lot of confidence before people are ready to go door knocking. But street stall, feathers, brilliant one. Outside a metro station with a whiteboard, do you think Labour government is good, yes or no? Well, yeah, you get a lot in the no column. And that's the kind of way that you raise it. It's got to be a socialist movement that has a social element to it. You go to the communities and you say, how can we help you? Always. You never go to them and say, this is what you must do. This is our politics. You go, you ask them. That's how you get the trust. We did that in Newcastle. There was events in the far right rights in Middlesbrough, in Hartlepool, in Sunderland. They tried to do it in Newcastle. There was a WhatsApp group set up. The primarily Bengali community had 3,000 members in it within a day. We turned up on the street. The far right never came back.